In every garden lies a story of love, loss, or quiet resilience. Mine began with Emily, beneath these Carolina skies, planting dreams that blossomed into memories. After losing her, I thought peace would remain rooted here forever. But peace is fragile, easily uprooted by greed, disguised as rules. This is the story of how one garden, one outrageous fine, and a hidden conspiracy brought our quiet neighborhood to the brink, and how fighting back became the only way to preserve the memories that mattered most. Jonathan Carter had always found peace in his garden. Ever since losing his beloved wife Emily 3 years ago, tending the blooming roses, vibrant tulips, and lush shrubs around their modest home in Asheville, North Carolina, had become more than just a hobby. It was his sanctuary, a living tribute to the woman he missed dearly every day. That peaceful sanctuary shattered on a warm morning in June. As Jonathan reached into his mailbox, he felt the ordinary routine suddenly turn unsettling. Mixed among the usual bills and grocery ads was a formal letter from the Cedar Hills Homeowners Association. Its bold, authoritative logo immediately set his nerves on edge. Jonathan unfolded the crisp paper, feeling a creeping dread with every word he read. His heart pounded sharply as the HOA informed him bluntly, due to noncompliance with community aesthetic standards, a fine of $45,000 has been assessed against your property. He froze, rereading the words. $45,000 for his garden. Bewilderment quickly gave way to disbelief. Then anger. Jonathan glanced instinctively at the yard, perfectly manicured, vibrant with life, just as Emily had always loved. Nothing about it could be considered an eyesore. Surely, there had to be a mistake. Determined yet cautious, Jonathan immediately took detailed photos of every corner of his yard, capturing each neatly trimmed hedge, flower bed, and tree. With carefully documented evidence, he requested a meeting with the HOA, confident that reason and facts would quickly resolve the misunderstanding. 3 days later, Jonathan stood before the HOA board in the community hall. At its center sat Franklin Bennett, the HOA president known for his influence and intimidating presence. Jonathan respectfully laid out his photos and evidence, carefully explaining the sentimental meaning behind each plant and shrub. Franklin barely glanced at the photos. With cold eyes and a practiced smile, he interrupted Jonathan's plea. "Mr. Carter," Franklin said firmly, his voice smooth yet chilling. "Rules exist for a reason. Your sentimental value, while touching, doesn't exempt you from standards. If you disagree, you're welcome to take legal action." Jonathan felt a burning humiliation rise within him as whispers rippled through the gathered neighbors. He noticed some faces turn away awkwardly, others displaying quiet sympathy, none daring to speak against Franklin Bennett. Walking back to his home that evening under a twilight sky, Jonathan felt isolated like never before. He had believed logic and sincerity would suffice, but something else was clearly at play. Franklin's words haunted him, laced with arrogance and power that hinted at something deeper, something darker. As night settled over Asheville, Jonathan sat quietly in his garden, surrounded by the fragrance of Emily's favorite jasmine flowers. He realized this was no longer just a fight over fines or garden aesthetics. It was about integrity, dignity, and a hidden truth that lay beneath the surface of his peaceful community. In the silence, Jonathan made a quiet, resolute decision. He wouldn't just protect his garden. He'd uncover what Franklin Bennett was truly hiding, no matter the cost. The morning sun painted Jonathan's garden in gentle shades of gold. But today, it brought him little comfort. Restlessness had stolen his sleep, and thoughts of Franklin Bennett's cold, dismissive tone kept replaying in his mind. Determined to find answers, Jonathan began digging through HOA records online, searching for clues behind the seemingly absurd fine. As frustration mounted, a knock interrupted his concentration. Opening the door, Jonathan saw Zoe Mitchell, his new neighbor. Zoe, young and sharp-eyed with a curious nature, held a laptop in one hand and wore an expression somewhere between excitement and worry. Jonathan "We need to talk," she said without preamble. Jonathan invited her in, sensing urgency behind her words. In his cozy kitchen, filled with framed photographs of Emily and himself in happier days, Zoe opened her laptop, her fingers dancing over the keyboard with youthful precision. "I was setting up my home network last night and accidentally picked up someone else's signal. Normally, I'd ignore it. But then I saw Franklin Bennett's name pop up," Zoe explained. Her voice hushed but intense. Jonathan leaned forward, eyes narrowing. "Franklin's network, exactly." Zoe continued. "I stumbled upon emails, very troubling emails. Franklin has been exchanging detailed plans with a real estate developer named David Morris. They're intentionally targeting specific homeowners with large fines, trying to force them into financial distress. They want the land. Jonathan, your land." Jonathan felt a cold fury building within him. For what, a luxury resort? Zoe replied grimly. "A private retreat. Your garden is right in the heart of the planned development. The entire neighborhood's aesthetic fines are designed to push homeowners out quietly, cheaply, and quickly." Jonathan's heart sank. The betrayal sharp and immediate. He had lived here for decades, cherishing the community and memories built within these streets. Now it felt like an invasion, a ruthless attempt to erase everything meaningful for profit. "You're not alone," Zoe said softly, sensing his turmoil. "There are others, but people are scared. Franklin is powerful, and nobody wants to risk retaliation." Jonathan stared at Emily's smiling photograph on the kitchen table. She had always believed in courage, in standing up for what was right, even when fear pressed in from all sides. "They count on fear," Jonathan finally whispered, his voice quiet but steady. "They're hoping I'll back down." Zoe nodded solemnly, her eyes sparkling with determination. "Then, let's surprise them. We can expose this scheme, but we'll need help." A name immediately came to Jonathan's mind: Allison Grant, a well-known attorney specializing in fighting HOA abuses, known across North Carolina for her relentless advocacy. Jonathan quickly reached out, and Allison agreed to meet them, sensing the gravity of their discovery. That afternoon, in Allison's downtown office overlooking Asheville's lively streets, Jonathan and Zoe laid out their evidence. Allison listened intently, jotting notes methodically, her expression turning from concern to controlled outrage as details emerged. "Jonathan, this is bigger than a fine. This is corruption. Intimidation, it's criminal," Allison declared firmly, her eyes sharp and focused. "But to win, we'll need more than emails. We must confront Franklin publicly, in a way he can't easily deny." Jonathan hesitated briefly, the thought daunting. But Zoe's reassuring presence and Allison's determined confidence steadied him. "All right," Jonathan affirmed resolutely, Emily's strength echoing inside him. "Whatever it takes." As they stepped from Allison's office into the evening air, Jonathan felt both fear and resolve tightening in his chest. He knew the fight ahead wouldn't be easy. Yet, amid uncertainty, something powerful stirred hope. Jonathan glanced toward the distant mountains, their sturdy outlines silhouetted against the fading sun. Emily had always loved those mountains, symbols of resilience. He knew she'd stand proudly beside him now, telling him it was time to rise and face the storm head-on. The community hall was packed, filled with anxious whispers and uneasy glances. Jonathan felt the weight of every stare as he stepped inside, Zoe and Allison by his side. At the front table sat Franklin Bennett, his expression calm, poised, arrogant even. As if he already knew the outcome, Allison approached the podium confidently, her presence immediately quieting the room. Jonathan's heart pounded steadily, each beat echoing determination despite the tension around him. "Ladies and gentlemen," Allison began firmly, her voice clear and commanding. "Today, we're not simply discussing garden aesthetics or fines. We're here to address corruption and betrayal at the heart of our community." The murmuring stopped abruptly. Franklin's face tightened almost imperceptibly. "We have evidence," Allison continued, holding up a folder. That your HOA president, Franklin Bennett, has deliberately imposed fines to intimidate homeowners into selling their properties below value, clearing the way for a secret real estate project involving luxury resorts. Gasps rippled across the hall. Franklin stood immediately, eyes dark with anger. That's an outrageous accusation. You have no proof. Zoe quietly stepped forward, projecting confidence that belied her youth. Actually, Mr. Bennett, we do. She connected her laptop to the projector, displaying screenshots of Franklin's incriminating emails and financial documents. The hall erupted again in murmurs of shock and outrage. Franklin glared furiously, searching desperately for words. "Those are fabricated," he snapped. But Allison wasn't finished. She signaled Zoe, who quickly pressed play on a recorded video. The hall grew silent as Franklin appeared on screen, clearly captured in private conversation with developer David Morris. Franklin's voice was unmistakable as he detailed plans to manipulate HOA guidelines, laughing about forcing stubborn residents out. Jonathan watched the community's reaction faces, filled first with disbelief, then anger. Franklin's composure shattered completely. The veneer of respectability vanished, replaced by panic and desperation. "You've betrayed us," Franklin shouted an elderly woman, followed by dozens more voices, the crowd's anger growing into a unified wave of indignation. Jonathan stepped forward, his voice calm but powerful. "Franklin, you didn't just threaten my home or my garden, you attacked our trust, our community, our memories. My garden was Emily's legacy, my wife's memory, and you turned it into a bargaining chip for greed." The room fell silent, deeply moved by Jonathan's heartfelt words. Franklin's shoulders slumped, defeat evident in his posture as neighbors he'd once intimidated stood united against him. Within days, the scandal reached court, supported by overwhelming evidence. Jonathan, Zoe, and Allison testified boldly, dismantling Franklin's defense piece by piece. The judge's verdict was clear and decisive. Jonathan was exonerated, fines dismissed entirely, and Franklin faced severe criminal charges for corruption and fraud. Following the trial, Jonathan stood quietly in his garden, now blooming brighter than ever, honoring Emily's spirit. Zoe approached gently, smiling with quiet pride. "You know," Zoe said softly, "I think Emily would be incredibly proud." Jonathan nodded, eyes glistening with gratitude and emotion. He had fought not just for his garden, but for justice for Emily's memory, for the community that stood strong beside him, and for countless others facing similar injustices. As evening fell over Asheville, Jonathan felt a profound peace settle within him. The garden that once symbolized his grief now represented something far greater, a community reclaimed, a legacy of resilience, courage, and hope.